Hello everyone, this is Utah State University Statesman. My name is Kalani Kelly. We are here today with Richard Whitney. He's running for governor here in Utah. We're going to be asking a few questions that we think our student body at USU would like to know about. Thank you, Richard, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So Richard, what motivated your decision to run for office?
Well, the big thing is it's more of the whole party system that's going on and playing that party game. I didn't want to be part of that because I see everything that's going on as a people issue and not a party issue. And people are so diametrically opposed and to each other just because of the whole party situation. I think it pretty much fouls up politics as a whole here in Utah. So if you're not Republican, pretty much you're not going to really get in and be able to do a whole lot. But if you're a Democrat, then you've got the Republicans that don't like you just because you're a Democrat and will vote against you just because you're a Democrat, regardless of the legislation. Plus I'm big on the voice of the people, and through the last bunch of propositions that we've had, we voted for every single one of them, and yet the legislature decides that the people really don't know what they want, so that they're going to propose and institute their own answer to those without any kind of collaboration with the people.
Right, yeah. How well do you think Utah has done in responding to COVID-19, and what do you think we need to do in the future?
I don't think we responded well enough and fast enough. A lot of places, they went through the whole 2-week period, other countries, and they were able to start ramping up their economies and get to a relative normal place where we haven't even gone through the first wave of this. And being in Utah, we are kind of like slower to get hit by this, but now it's starting to spread even more, especially in places that were against wearing masks and against social distancing. I mean, even on the first warnings, we were told to social distance and wear masks. And even the very next night when we were asked to do that, you had people in huge meetings at the airport just standing there all together waiting for their loved ones to come home and ignoring any of those warnings or any of those asks for us to just be careful, and no one paid it attention. So now we're where we're at now, and we still haven't gotten through the first wave, and the second wave's about to commence.
Yeah, that's very true. What are you doing now, and what you do in your position to combat climate change?
What am I doing now? Well, now I'm involved with a couple of the Democratic caucuses, not so much on climate change, but more on disability and on veterans issues. As far as climate change, I'm basically for many aspects of the Green New Deal. I think we should move to renewable energies. I think that should be the focus. And I think coal, which it's literally a dying down, it's a dinosaur, literally. It's dying. It's not the way to the future at all.
Yeah, that's very true as well. What plans do you have to address racial justice and police reform issues?
Well, people were talking about defund the police, and that's not really what that means, at least not in my mind. Defund the police basically means that we're going to expand the toolbox that the police have to be able to handle various situations. So there would be more accessibility to emergency personnel, like counselors, drug abuse counselors, things like that. So when they get on a call that's like, say it's a disturbance where, like this last 13-year-old that got shot by the police because he's autistic, a social worker should have been there, and the police, they need that training, the extra training on top of that, so they can recognize these situations so that they can call in and get the correct tools to do the job. So it's more expanding the policeman's knowledge, and it's more about expanding his access to different people, counselors, things like that, social workers, in the performance of his duties. So not really defund, but more like rework the system as it is.
Right, yeah. So Utah is known for its soda shops. What is your go-to drink?
Well, it used to be Mountain Dew. Um, since I've basically been hit with MS, multiple sclerosis, my diet's quite changed. So Mountain Dew, I can't do any kind of milk products. I can't even eat my favorite ice cream, which is like chocolate chip cookie dough. No onions, no garlic. It's just, but at least I can still eat bacon, so life's worth living.
That sounds really hard, but yeah, at least there's bacon. I mean, without that, everything would be hard.
Oh yeah.
Um, I'm just looking at our questions here.
Sure.
If you could scroll down, please. Thank you. What do you see as the greatest challenge for this generation of students that none have had before?
The greatest challenge, I would say, becoming politically aware, becoming more politically observant and active. They were trying to make a big push for the young when Greta came on scene, when the Parkland Five came on scene, but it didn't really reflect in the polls as much as it probably should have, that younger people really do need to get involved in politics. They do have ideas, they do have a mind, and it's their future that we're all basically in this for. So they definitely need to get more involved in politics, be it getting involved with the party and caucusing, to running for office, or just volunteering on campaigns. Definitely voting. There's no question you should be voting. Yeah, definitely more active in politics.
Yeah. How do you plan to represent as much of our population as possible?
That's my intent. And I do understand that a lot of the rural populations have a different way of life, and that needs to be respected, as well as people that live in the big cities. And they have a different view of life and how things are. And taking care of those extremes on the spectrum is very important. And that also lies within each individual community and those areas around the communities. So when they're like trying to shrink national parks so that somebody can come in and take other countries' wastes and store it at like around Bears Ears or other things like that, it seems to me that the big care is about a few people and making money, and then that isn't really representative of the entire state, of the citizenry of Utah. And that's the thing that I'm really concerned about. So when these big corporations come into Utah and they get all these subsidies and tax breaks and everything like that, and then they come in and get their business built up and everything, and then in the long term, they end up having only like 20 or 30 jobs that they bring to Utah. And even those mid-range jobs that pay, in the 100 grand range, those jobs that everybody wants, a lot of those end up getting farmed out to people out of state or to people that are here on work visas. And it's not taking care of Utah, and our taxes are being cut. Our tax power with the money that we collect is being cut because these guys are getting subsidies and they're taking advantage of the right to work state. So I think that any of these businesses, be it in a small rural community or even in the city itself, if they come into Utah, in order for them to qualify for these subsidies and tax incentives, they really need to prove a long-range plan on how it's going to benefit our citizens here in Utah.
That's very true. So on that note, what are you going to be doing to preserve our natural spaces and lands?
Well, definitely not allowing on recognized parks, state parks and state lands. I want to keep those as natural as possible. I don't want to like lease them out for oil interests or uranium interests or anything like that. I, I mean, Utah is a very large state, and a lot of our lands are held in federal by the feds. So state-wise, we need to show that we can take care of our land and not just auction it off. I mean, we're talking about it's here, it's Utah land, so it should be Utah land and not federal land, like they did with the Bears Ears and Escalante Staircase. So they cut down the park. And what we were told when we were protesting was, oh no, the state just wants to take care of this land on its own. We can manage it ourselves. And the first thing they did was they auctioned off rights for drilling. They auctioned off rights for gas. They auctioned off, rights for storage of nuclear waste, for uranium. And that's what they did. That's not taking care of the land. That's basically abusing it and exploiting it. So we already have areas that are heavily exploited, and they're always looking for new. And I get that they need these supplies, but like we were talking about before, coal and oil are a dying resource. They're a finite resource. So no matter how you look at it, they're going away, be it tomorrow or be it in 50 to 100 years. They're going to be gone. They're going away. We got to concentrate on the future and future technologies for that. And I don't see how opening up our lands to more oil production or anything like that is helping to facilitate a good future for us.
Yeah. Okay, as a final question, how will you be representing Utah's large college student population?
Oh, the college population? Well, I'm huge on education. That's a big thing for me. And if it can be worked and done, which if we're not giving away all the taxes and subsidies to big businesses, I'm sure we can find a way to cut down the cost of college. We need to cut that down. Not only that, but feeding into college, there needs to be more preparatory coursework through the high school system. We need to institute that all the way down to like pre-K with like daycare and pre-K, so that we can finance that and re-educate, well, not re-educate, but kind of like reimagine the education system so it's a feeder into college. I also want to add in different tracks like technical schools and trade schools. So there's like high schools that concentrate on trade schools and technical, schools like that, kind of like they did with like Hollywood High and like movie production and things like that. So schools that actually, feed into the various areas in society of the jobs that we need to fill those. And college, with that, we need more courses in high school that feed into college. I mean, there is a lot, but I don't think it's like across the board. I don't think all schools really work on it that hard. I know there's a lot of East Side schools that push college and they have a lot of AP courses and things like that, but I don't think it's pushed out on a universal basis throughout the state. And I'd like to see that so it feeds into college. So yeah, trying to lower tuition and college costs, and also with trying to amp up the feeding into the college, more collegiate level courses on the high school level, feeding into that preparatory wise.
Okay, once again, we would like to thank Richard Whitney for joining us. This has been the Utah State University Statesman.